Chapter 26. Emily came back soon after she left with a box in her hand. The pretty velvet colored box looked luxurious. I took the box and opened it right away. Wow, the color's so pretty, Emily said in fascination when the circular ultramarine blue gem was revealed from the box. Lapis lazuli usually had a hint of gold and white parts to it. It was more valuable when the color got deeper into blue, and when lesser of those gold and white colors were included in it. I checked it out by spinning the box in my hand, but not a single white or gold parts were spotted in the deep blue gem. I like it. I put on a satisfied smile as I set the box down on the table. It was worth the money after all. Are you going to give this as a gift to His Grace, lady? Emily asked, still looking at the cuff button with a circular lapis lazuli planted in it. There's no way I'd give it to the Duke. I answered her question, no, and requested, can you bring any one of the jewelry box I own? A jewelry box? Of course, lady. Emily seemed curious about what I was going to do, but did as requested without further question. Tuck. A moment later, Emily set down a big and heavy-looking wooden box on the desk. I stared down at it for a little while, making it look like I was thinking of something before speaking at the right timing. I have something I'd like to ask someone to do something for me. What is it? Do you, by any chance, know anything about the informant at the upper portion of the streets? An informant. Emily muttered, then spoke. I don't know much about it, but my roommate probably does. She worked at the upper portion of the streets before she came to work here. Is that so? I paused for a moment before continuing. What's her name? Her name's Rena. Where is she right now? But I can do this better than Rena can, lady, Emily added. Sure, she knows a lot, but she also has a big mouth, she said as she studied my face. She seemed scared of being pushed away if I called that other maid over. Emily, this job needs to be secretly and sincerely done. The person will also need to act depending on each situation. The real reason why I chose to keep Emily as my personal maid was so that I could leave these sort of things to her. There was no one more suitable for the job than Emily was in the first place. You despised me so much before. However, I purposely tried to make her feel more worried to warn her once. And how could I possibly trust someone who despised me? Lady Penelope. It was a topic that I haven't brought up for a long time. Emily's face turned pale in seconds, as if she remembered the past. I never thought badly of you after that time, lady. I tried my best and served you the best I could. Anyone at the mansion could say the same thing, Emily. Emily stopped talking at my cold words. I, she thought she thought a little and said, you know that I'm sharp with taking a hint and acting depending on the situation, lady. I was amazed by how fast she realized that whining wouldn't work on me and changed her plan to trying to prove what she can pull off. Quite amazing. I noticed from long before that Emily was smarter and sharper than the other extras here, and seeing it now proved that she certainly is. That's also probably why she had the idea to abuse Penelope with a needle. Emily tried to convince me with a desperate face on. Think about it. I never once failed to do what you told me to do. Speechless. So please leave it to me. I'm your personal maid after all. There was a long silence after that. Tap tap. The only sound in the room now was my finger tapping on the desk. Before all those escaped from the uneasy maid. Okay, I accepted. I'll try trusting you this time. Lady. Emily looked at me with a touched face. I never thought that she saw me in a good light after a threat. I threatened her with the needle, but thinking that one's trust is about to leave for another makes someone vow their loyalty to the one. Thank you, lady. I'll never disappoint you. I half-heartedly nodded at Emily, bowing at me. Open the jewelry box. She moved instantly after I commanded. From now on until my time out is over, you go to the informants after the morning serving. Then you'll request them to find a person for me. A person? Who are you looking for? I'll write down all the things about him that they need to know to be able to find him. All you need to do is just show that paper to them. You can use how many of the jewels in that jewelry box that you need to pay them. There was the overflowing amount of jewels in the box. Unfortunately, Penelope didn't have much money, so the only thing I could use to pay them was with all these jewels. It didn't really matter even if I used all of it in that box, as there were several more jewelry boxes overflowing with jewels in where they store all of the Gong News valuables. Okay, I can do that, lady. You'll be able to find that person real quick. But you can't request this thing to an informant whose job is finding someone. Then who? Only the places where they trade very valuable information and objects. Only the highly advanced agencies where the high-ranked nobles would go to. That you have the ability to find some on your own right. Yes, of course. It was said that Winter owned one of those agencies in the game. The base of the agency that he operated was said to be the most well known and the biggest, so she'll be able to find it easily. I already knew that he was a marquis, a sorcerer, and that he secretly operated an agency. If I wanted to meet him, then I just have to go to the parties that he might consider going. But Winter was one of the main male characters, and he also had the most possibility after Eclipse. I decided to make use of what happened in an episode from the normal mode to have a more dramatic meeting with him. After coming back to the mansion, the heroine goes searching for her lifesaver who helped her find her real family. All she knew about him was that he was a sorcerer with a rabbit mask on. However, when she encounters Winter in the party to debut as the real Gongyu, realizes right away that he was the one who helped her by just his eye color. How does that make sense? How do you know a person just by looking at their eyes? I felt embarrassed at me, who once was laughing in joy because the normal mode was so easy. I didn't intend to attend every party out there to meet Winter, like what the normal mode heroine did. I'll just make it so that he comes to find me instead. I opened my mouth. And one more thing, don't make it noticeable to them that you're the maid of a high-ranked noble lady. Huh? How? Just make it so that they think that a noble lady is secretly finding a man who she fell in love at first sight. Oh my, lady. Emily jumped in the spot at my whispering words. If it's something like that, just asking me would be faster. I creased my eyebrows at her reaction. High-ranked people are what all the maids gossip about together. If it's a single, especially handsome nobleman, then I already have them stuck in my Emily. I cut through her words. Can you do what you're asked to do or not? Answer just that. Leave it to me, lady. I'll be sure to find out who the lady fell in love. It's nothing like that. I made that clear. I could guess what she was thinking right now. She doesn't know anything, but Emily didn't seem to believe my words as her eyes continued to shine. Looks like spring's finally approaching Our Lady. I had no choice but to roll up my sleeves to bring her back to reality. Act wisely. The existence of your needle will depend on how you do on this job. Gasp. This is a chance given to you, Emily. You might actually be kicked out from this place by doing what you weren't asked to do. The back of my hand was now all healed so that the needle marks weren't visible anymore. However, there was no way that Emily wouldn't know what it meant by me showing the back of my hand as she made a solemn face. Did I develop affection towards her? I felt a little sorry to see that face. Just then, knock knock, lady, it's Pennell. Pennell is the butler, if you forgot. A knocking sound came from the door. The butler never once opened the door without permission anymore, but even so, I always waited for a few seconds before allowing him to open it. Come in. The butler cautiously opened the door and bowed. What is it? There's an invitation for Lady Penelope from the royal palace. For me, I tilted my head. The second prince's birthday ceremony happened not too long ago, so there shouldn't be any other parties happening at the royal grounds for a while. Yes, lady. It seems like there's a small party on the last day of the festival to celebrate this country's victory. I frowned. What was up with the royals to plan parties so often? There was already a banquet celebrating the return, quite a magnificent one at that, no? It's said that this time, His Highness Crown Prince himself hosted it. I turned my head to face the butler in a robotic motion at his next words. The Crown Prince. End of chapter 26. Chapter 27. Silence. The word crown prince was almost like a prohibited word to say within the mansion grounds, those red eyes seeming to kill me right away. My neck was healed, but it started to hurt again just by thinking of him. I couldn't refuse the invitations from the royals without having a good reason why. My hands formed a fist as it continued to tremble. What did father say about this? That's... The butler hesitated. It only came to you, Lady Penelope. The invitation didn't come to anyone else here but you. Therefore, his grace doesn't know yet. Shoot. Thud. I couldn't pretend like it didn't bother me anymore as I slammed on the desk and got up. Lady, both Emily and the butler looked my way in terror from the invitation, but I couldn't mind their stare at the moment. He's totally out of his mind, that bastard. He's far more insane than the game showed me. That bastard didn't forget about me, forget my foot. He's probably doing this on purpose for that. Probably to end my life. You'll have to explain specifically why and how you came to like me the next time we meet. I trembled in fear as I remembered what he last said to me back then. This wasn't a part of an episode, you insane game. I panicked as I remembered the storyline of the game, but no matter how much I searched through my memories, alright, I never came out of the maze garden alive in the game now, have I? Well, what should I do with the invitation, lady? The butler cautiously asked. Huh. What do you mean by what to do? I let out a huge sigh as I ran my hand over my hair. I'm sick. I sat back down on the chair and leaned back for support. I actually felt like I was melting from an illness that I didn't have a moment ago. I have a very high fever, Butler. I spoke with half closed eyes. He looked flustered for a moment, but really only for a moment. It's really unfortunate for Our Lady to be sick like this. Is it because of the cold? The butler was a professional from working for 10 years, tens of years, immediately asked I, tens of years in this mansion, to immediately ask for the reason. Note, the butler is asking this because he knows that Penelope isn't really sick, but is telling him the excuse to use for her to not attend the party. It would be better to say that I still have the after effect from that incident. Understood, lady. The butler bowed politely and left the room. Ha! I pressed my forehead when my head started to hurt. That was when Emily asked with a worried face, Lady, are you okay? Should I tell His Grace about it to bring in a doctor? No, there's no need. I was going to refuse, but then changed my mind. Actually, yes, yeah, call a doctor. I should intensify their worries on me so that they allow me to stay in for longer while I'm at it. I'm not coming out from under my comforter for a while, at least not until the Crown Prince forgets about me. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Emily started to carry out what I told her to do for the next few days. It was fortunate that the cough button was made in time. No one suspected Emily from going outside often, since the festival didn't end yet. They were also disinterested until I brought out the jewelry box. Like their attitude changed instantly. Emily informed me about what happened during the 2 days when she went out to seek for the informers. Everything she told me went in one ear and out the other until she said a strange bass with no one other than the man wearing a white rabbit mask there. Great, he took the bait. What she said matched with how the game showed it. I stopped Emily from explaining any further by raising a hand. You worked hard, Emily, even though it was raining. You can go back now and rest. Okay, I'll come back when it's time for dinner. Emily was energetic till the end, even when she was soaked from head to toe. Thankfully, it didn't seem like she caught a cold or anything. Clack, the door closed, and the silence filled the room. I turned around and looked out the window. The world seemed to have lost its colors as everything was in the shades of gray. Why does it rain for the whole day? The weather made me feel even more down than I already was. I hated rainy days. It was because it was raining on the day I felt the most miserable. I envied my friends who always had their mother come and get them with an umbrella. I couldn't have felt more embarrassed and miserable in my life than when the kids asked me without any bad intentions, Don't you have a ma'am? When I was walking across the school field in the rain, those emotions I felt never changed, even though time passed and when I grew up people sticking to one of their friends who have umbrellas at the end of the school. And, young master, hurry. The hell, the weather forecast didn't inform that it was going to rain today. Now I'm all wet. How annoying. Secretary Kim, hurry home. Then what about lady? Who cares? She'll come back herself somehow. Hurry and start the car. Vroom, the car getting further away from me. I was left alone at the school gates just in seconds as I then had to. Just my luck. I frowned deep at a piece of memory that popped up in my head. I shook my head a couple of times and tried to get rid of the feelings of sadness, as if I have the time to be sitting around watching it rain while feeling down. I stood up from the spot. I needed to do something, anything so that I can get out of this damn place even a second faster. I left the room with an umbrella in my hand. It was very quiet everywhere. It was as if no one was outside because of the rain. Though there were a few people, I slowly walked through the garden. I came out here thinking that I really should be doing something, but I couldn't think of anything to do now that I was out here. I was walking to where there will be lesser people, more like a place where I wouldn't bump into the two brothers. Splash, splash. For how long did I walk? I was heading to where my legs were taking me and realized that I was at a very familiar place. It was the forest that leads you to the training grounds. Thanks to my suffering to find an escape hole before I could realize it right away where I was. It's a place where I could bump into Reynold. I already encountered him once here when he was finished with his training and was going back. Not only Reynold, I could also bump into Derek here. No, nope. I came out way too far. I turned around without any hesitation. I did come out thinking that I should be doing something, but that didn't include meeting with the two whose interest rises when they don't see me. It was when I was about to take a step forward back to the mansion. Whoosh, swing. The sound of the wind blowing was heard from somewhere. To be specific, it was the sound of one swinging his sword. They train when it's raining too. I heard that the training time and its difficulty increased for the nights. I felt a bit absurd. Everyone would be able to guess, if they're not stupid, that it was all because of me who took in a slave with no identity as my personal bodyguard. I started walking towards where the sound came from. I was actually curious about the knight's reaction. Would they be talking bad about me? It really didn't matter though. It wasn't the real me who was getting the bad mouthed on. I should check if Iklis is also there while I'm at it. But no one was there in the training grounds except for one person in the corner, swinging his wooden sword. I couldn't see who it was at first. It was because his wet gray hair looked so much like the monotone sky. I walked slowly and carefully so that he wouldn't notice. I couldn't see the person clearer as I approached him. The man was shirtless while he was swinging his sword vertically like a machine. There were big and small, deep and shallow scars visible on his muscular back and arms. He looked brutal and pitiful. It's cold out, though. The man didn't seem to have noticed me approaching him, maybe because of how focused he was. And right when I got to right behind him, swoosh, the man turned around in the speed of lightning, along with the sound of something slicing the wind. I blinked once and noticed something was cold against my neck. Ha ha, Eccles looked at me while his shoulders heaved wildly. I got goosebumps at the deathly aura aiming at me. It was a great reflective skill for someone who was swinging his sword only up and down to have. He was glaring at me until his deathly aura softened up as he started to realize who I was. The deathly aura disappeared completely as he now seemed flustered. Eccles frowned after noticing that it was me. Master. He seemed flustered to the point that his voice trembled. It was then when I realized that I wasn't breathing at all. My lips trembled a little before I started to speak. It's the cold wooden sword was still on my neck, but I forced the words out in a friendly manner, as if nothing had happened, and also as if I wasn't surprised or scared. It's raining, Eccles. His gray eyes that were looking at me wavered once again, followed by that the interest gauge bar sparkled. Interest, 23%. Mhm. End of chapter 27. Chapter 28. 3% of his interest rose instantly, but I wasn't in a situation where I could be happy about it. Why are you? First, can you get this away from me? I asked, glimpsing at the wooden sword that by my neck. It's cold. Ah, with a sound of realization, he raised his hand with the sword up in the air. Swoosh, whoosh. That moment, a shadow of a long object was shown on me. I instinctively closed my eyes. I knew he wouldn't slash me with it, but it was like I said, instinctive. Crack. I opened my eyes again when I heard something breaking. I looked down at the ground to find a broken wooden sword that has been thrown really hard. What the? When I raised my head, Eccles dropped down to the sloppy wet mud on his knees. Master, speechless. I'm sorry. He apologized, kneeling on the ground. How dare I, the master? The frown on his face resembles a child on the verge of crying. Punish me. Pshaw, it started to rain harder than before. Raindrops dropped on and back down from his nose and his chin continuously. He looked beautiful, but then I noticed where he was looking at right away, the crimson ruby ring I had on the index finger of my left hand. A thin sigh escaped my mouth. I looked at the keys and at the broken wooden sword. Who knows that he might come at me when I move my finger on him? Even though he told me to punish him, the wooden sword was now half buried under the mud. The sharp end of the wooden sword was still poking out from the mud. If I were to fall on the top of it, then it might actually. Ah, I trembled at the terrible thought. Out of the blue, I was reminded of the line choices that I've turned off for a while. If I was playing the game, then I would have died in such a stupid way in this scene. If then, I would have clicked on reset and continued to play this with episode until I lived through it. I wasn't certain of it though, since I never got to this episode playing the hard mode, but I could guess, now that I stayed in this world for a while now, that there would have been choices right now at this scene if it were a game. What does Penelope have to say right now if she wants to live? I coldly looked down at Eccles, who was kneeling down before me. He did sad puppy eye. He he did sad puppy eyes as he looked down at the floor, but I wonder what's he's thinking inside. A slave who lost his country in a day and fell from being a noble to being a slave. He must feel terrible about his state right now, where he was sold with money, that now he has to kill his true desire and act well to a haughty noble girl who he probably hates. It wasn't hard guessing what he is probably feeling. The sight of him swinging his sword even though no one was there, and with that breathtaking deathly aura at that. From that, I could realize just how much anger and fury he was holding all in. There was only one answer to this. Just smile kindly like the heroine of the normal mode, as if you don't even know what a deathly aura is, and tell him that it's fine and that it isn't of a big deal. But no matter how much I tried to force myself to say those words, it wouldn't come out. Just how can you say something like that? I almost died from that wooden sword. Please, I clenched my hands into fists and found other words to say instead. Is someone picking on you? I still needed to act well in order to survive, at least as long as I'm still Penelope, the villain of this game. People here don't treat the knights this strictly. Why could it be that you're still training in this kind of weather? Speechless, you're alone at that. I forced a smile, studying him intensely in case he tries to kill me. Hmm? I urged him to answer. When I did, his once emotionless face turned into a face of a dumbfounded someone. You're all wet to the skin. I tilted the umbrella a little so that it covers the rain from him, too, though it wouldn't do anything since he was already drenched. His long lashes looked heavy with the small raindrops caught in them. I reached out my hand and swiped both of his eye area as if to dry them. Tell me, who told you to do such a thing? Nicholas flinched when my fingers touched him as if he's been stamped with a metal stump heated with fire. Then he answered while exhaling. No one. Speechless, no one made me do this. Then, I just... He paused. Then he moved his gaze from the ring to my eyes. I wanted to formally become a knight so that I could stay by Master's side as soon as possible. Speechless. That's why I've been training alone, Master. I smiled gently at his answer. How highly commendable. The gray eyes that were looking at me weren't wavering anymore. I should give you a prize for training so hard. I looked up above his head, which was sparkling again. Then I acted my best to hide what I was thinking. Should I tell them to set a cover here so that you can do your training without getting wet? Or do you have something you wanted? Speechless, Iklis shook his head no without saying a word. Then I rolled my gaze over to the broken wooden sword. Ah yes, I should get you another sword since that one's broken. Speechless, I should call an armorer or would or would a blacksmith be? I would like. He opened his mouth and cut through my words. I would like for Master to visit me often. I was left speechless at his unexpected request. I looked at him with slightly widened eyes when he continued. Master has never once visited me after leaving me at this place. Speechless, I thought Master has forgotten me. His gaze on me somehow looked as if he was doting me, just as he was begging for love. Huh, I didn't know if that was a horse laugh or a self-helping laugh that escaped my mouth. I was certain of it now, the discomfort I felt from him even when he kneeled to me after beating others like a murdering machine. Just like I was putting on a mask of a kind master for his interests, Eclise was also acting like my loyal dog for his survival. I thought I brought in a puppy, but maybe it was a baby tiger instead. Idiotically, I never once suspected that Eclise road was dangerous, as I thought all along that this would be the safest. But now I wasn't sure. It was my fault for not trying out every character's route. But even so, I couldn't stop now. All right, anytime, if that's what you want. Interest 25%. Eclise faintly smiled at my answer. You're going to catch a cold, Eclise. His breath was visible in the cold air. I told him with a gentle tone when he straightened his back. At the same time, the umbrella was tilted back towards me. The rain started to pour on Eclise again. Stop with your training today. This is an order. I turned to my back with that said. It was when I was about to take the first step forward. Master, Eclise called me. I glimpsed back at him and saw him still kneeling on the ground. He didn't try and avoid the rain as he only stared at me. Aren't you going to give me any punishments? Speechless, I almost hurt Master. No, not just almost hurt me. You almost killed me. I forced a smile, even with my trembling lips. Punishing a loyal knight for only some small matters is something that only some idiotic storytellers would do, Eclise. Speechless, you didn't do that on purpose, right? I didn't give him the chance to reply to my words as I quickly walked away. I felt the gaze that leaving me until I was completely gone from the place. My one and only bodyguard who didn't receive an order to get up again, nor was ever forgiven for his actions by me. Thankfully he didn't try and stop his master from leaving again. I walked at a fast speed, not caring whether or not my dress got wet. Everything passed by me so quickly due to me walking so fast. I was moving in a completely different manner than how I was walking either. It wasn't that Eclipse's route was safe. My mood dropped to the very bottom of the truth. I just realized not too long ago. Actually, it wasn't entirely unexpected. Every male lead's interest started from either a zero or at the negative. I kept on dying before even being able to reach the middle of the story of the roots playing the hard mode. There was no way there'd be an easy route to take. What was I thinking? What did I trust so much that I approached him without any fear? The wooden sword that sliced through the rain to my neck before I even got to him. I flinched just by thinking about it. Oh, I stumbled to a stop at the sudden dizziness from a headache. I didn't have the mentality to realize that my clothes were wet as I reached out for the wooden pillar next to me for support. My trembling legs felt like it was going to lose all the strength at any moment. I glared at somewhere on the other side of the fog until the dizziness left me. Then I muted the one thing that came up in my head. I should hurry and meet with Winter. End of chapter end of chapter 28. Chapter 29, 25%. Eclipse had the highest interest out of all the others. However, something blocked me from getting excited over it. Derrick's and Reynolds rose only around 2 to 3% each time, and 5% at most. But as of Eclipse, who I've met not too long ago, his interest was rapidly rising. The faster something rises, the faster it drops. Looking back to the time I played the game, the interest in the hard mode often dropped at unexpected scenes. That's why I can't fully depend on Eclipse for my escape. I should go for another in case things go wrong. I felt the cold rain drop onto my arms, which helped to cool my head. Yeah, that will do. That now wasn't completely unexpected, so no need to panic. I calmed myself down. My rushed breathing gradually turned stable again. Nausea I felt washed out with it. Emily will freak out. I looked down, feeling something cold, and saw my shoulders wet. Sick. I clicked my tongue and started walking. I started to feel cold and tired now that I've calmed down. If I didn't hurry back in the mansion, I was sure that this week Penelope's body would fall ill tomorrow. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. All the informants that Emily went to find finished what I've requested them in less than 2 days. Lady, here, these are about what Lady has requested them. Emily set down the black tea and a piece of cake that I asked for on the table, then set down envelopes on the same tray. The cake and the tea was set. Each envelope had some beeswax to seal it, and it was stamped with their group symbol. I closed the book I was reading and opened all the envelopes. In each of the envelope was a single piece of paper with many names and the noble family names written on it. A single or two names were the only differences between each paper. Is this all? I asked, scanning the paper lists. Emily straightened her posture. She seemed to have thought that I didn't like the results she brought with her because she panicked and started explaining. They said it would be helpful if Lady explained a little more about that person. That way they can be more. Emily glimpsed at the lists as her voice grew quieter by the seconds. Of course, she would be freaking out. She left so confident that she'll find the person in no time, but a list with so many names came in return. This wasn't Emily's fault, though. A nobleman who attended the second prince's birthday banquet with a white handkerchief. The information I've written on the paper I gave to Emily wasn't enough to be able to detect a person. It was a basic of the basics to always have a handkerchief with them at a party. I'll go find some other informants, lady. No, it's fine. This is enough of lists. I shook my head at Emily's words. It wasn't like my real intention was finding a person. It's the numbers of the informants you went to. You said that you visited many places. Ah, Emily finally softened her once tensed expression. Now, I see. There's one missing. She tilted her head, finding it strange. I checked the envelopes again. None of the symbols were representing the white rabbit. I thought theirs would come immediately. I was left in vain, but Winternet taking action. I was left in vain at Winter not taking action. There was only one way left as long as he didn't show himself. I had to attend every party that he might attend and find him myself, just like the heroine from the normal mode did. How annoying, I sighed. Should I go to them again? Emily asked me cautiously, noticing my disappointment. No need. Anyways, how did the paying go? Right, I gave all of them the right amount of gem. Good job, I said, thinking about the upcoming parties that opened in the normal mode. You've worked hard for the past few days, so you have the remainder of the gems. That's Emily's jaw dropped as if she thought the reward was too great. No, I'm fine, lady. I'll bring the box back after the cleanup. Why? Don't you like gems? Then I'll give you some gold coin. No, no. Emily shook her head in big motions as she refused. I don't want any of those, lady. Those words made me stop. thinking about other things, and turned around to face her. She didn't look so well. Didn't people usually get excited and accept the rewards? Emily didn't seem excited at all, but rather looked at as if she was victimized. I don't need those rewards, lady. Instead, ah, then I remembered something I promised with Emily. No need to worry. I'll get rid of the needle just as I promised. You don't have to. Lady can just keep it. Hmm? I raised an eyebrow in confusion. A person who freaked out about the needle now wants me to keep it? I slightly frowned at her unknown intentions. Out with it. What do you want? Emily hesitated at my cold gaze as she started speaking what she wanted. Oh, I I want to be Lady's real personal maid. Speechless, I gazed at Emily to try and detect if this was what she really wanted, then spoke uncaringly. You already are my personal maid. I can't do anything more about it. Lady, Emily kneeled to the floor. I'm sorry. Speechless, I've done so many bad things to the lady up until now. How dare I, not knowing my place? It's obvious for Lady to not trust me. Emily, but if you give me just one more chance, then I'll prove it to you. I'll prove how useful of a maid I can be. I was lost for words at her reaction. So what you're saying is, you want to be my right hand? Yes, I couldn't understand up until now. Emily was always out for abusing Penelope. That was how much Penelope was looked down on in this mansion, as an existence worse than the workers here. That was the fake Gong Yu here. Is she thinking maybe she'll get rewarded bigger than this if she sticks with me from now on? If that's it, then shame on her because Penelope wasn't given an allowance on money since she liked to waste them on unnecessary things. She could only buy the jewels by calling over a jeweler and purchase through the butler or the duke depending on the situation. Emily would know about this the best since she has been working as Penelope's personal maid for years. What is she planning? Emily spoke confidently when I stared at her, suspicious. You can keep the needle with you and show it to the Duke when you find me doing something suspicious. Do you mean that? Emily powerfully nodded her head at my question. I didn't examine her face too hard, but it clearly wasn't the face of a person lying. I thought about it for a moment with Emily kneeling before me. This was an unexpected situation. To think an extra who I thought would take action if I gave her a reward worth it would voluntarily say that she'd side with me. Is this one of the game episodes? To be honest, this was something that wouldn't make sense if it were to happen in real life. However, it wasn't something that would negatively affect me. Whatever it is, having one loyal maid would be useful. My thinking didn't last for long. Then take the jewelry box with the remaining gems back to where it was before. Lady. Emily rapidly rose from the spot with a touched face. Thank you. Thank you, lady. I'll do my best to serve you from now on, too. Take your leave now. Emily didn't stop thanking me even when I hand motioned her away annoyedly. Click. Just when Emily left my room, a white box appeared in front of my eyes. System, your fame has been 10 plus 10 due to the reformation of your relationship with the people working in this mansion. Total 15. Interesting. I casually read the sentence in the white box. My fame that I've already given up from the very beginning was surprisingly rising. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Brilliant sunlight was shining into my room through the big window in my room. The table that was once sat by the window was pushed off to the side, and I was sitting on the floor as dozing off. I thought of going out for a walk, but I was restraining myself from it since I didn't know where, when, and how I would meet the two exes. But sitting like this with the sunlight bathing me made my mood in place for going out for a walk. How peaceful. Actually, it wasn't the time for me to be like this. I've waited for around 2 more days since I got the reply mails from the informants that were delivered to me through Emily, but still, no reply came from Winter. That's why I had no choice but to request something to the butler, gather all the party invitations that high-ranked young noblemen would attend to. Just like that, the butler seemed uneasy at the news that I was going to start participating in the social circle again. Note, social circle, for example, will be things like parties or tea parties and other social meetings. Just how much of a fuss did Penelope make before that he would reflexively make a face like that immediately? Phew, my happy time out life. Now the peace have come to an end. I pitied myself, who was now about to attend all the possible parties to find Winter. Just then, creak, the window I opened a little suddenly opened wider, until it was open all the way. Soon after that, a strong wind came through the opened window into my room. Whoosh. End of chapter End of chapter 29. Chapter 30. What the? I opened my eyes in surprise, but I couldn't help but close them again at the strong wind that hurt my eyes. Whoosh, my hair swayed and made a mess on my face. Eh. That only lasted for a moment, though. The strong wind that blew so suddenly has stopped just as suddenly. The area was calm again to the point that no one would believe what just happened. I slowly raised my head. Just what is? Cue. That moment, a weird crying was heard. Dumbfounded, I turned my gaze to where the sound came from. On my dress that I was wearing, a white fluff ball. Cue, not a rabbit. This, what's I couldn't continue with my words at this unbelievable situation. A strong wind blew, and then a rabbit appeared in my room. I rubbed my eyes to see if I was seeing things, but still I could see the white baby rabbit in front of me. Cue, cue. The rabbit tilted its head while staring at a human before me. Then it would hop its way to me. In a flash, the white fluff ball was on my legs. Huh, where did you come from? This is the second floor. Cue. There's no way you have been taken from the wind. The rabbit blinked its red eyes and tilted its head again, as if it didn't understand a word I said. Well, if you actually understood my words, then it would be more of an honor than it would be more of a horror than this. Just then, the rabbit that stared at me for a while opened its mouth. Two cute front teeth were visible from that, but at the same time, mission is completed. A male adult's voice came out from the cute rabbit's mouth. Ugh! I was frozen for 1 second before screaming and backing away. Because of that, the rabbit that was on my leg was thrown off to the floor. For a moment, I thought I made the wrong move, but fortunately, the rabbit landed perfectly on the carpet. Then it looked up at me as if nothing had happened. Cue? What was that just now? Didn't a man's voice come from that rabbit? It was a mere animal that was of the size of my fist, but I still put my guard up, scared. I waited for a while, but the rabbit still didn't speak. I muted, unable to think of anything. What the? Was I just hearing the? Mission is completed. If you want to hear the requested, please come find our base yourself. Oh my gosh, just as I thought, I was hearing things. The rabbit's mouth opened once more with a man's sound coming out of it. I freaked out again as I backed away from the rabbit. I backed away so fast that my back was touching the pole of the bed. The rabbit didn't intend to scare me further as it didn't come any closer to me. This is the White Rabbit Informant Group. Farewell. With that said, the strong wind started to blow into my room again. Whoosh! The wind stopped and I raised my head, combing my messed up hair. The rabbit with a great presence was gone from my sight. Just what is? I stared blankly at the carpet where the rabbit was a moment ago. Then I remembered the way Winter contacted the normal mode heroine. Note, I decided to go with Winter rather than Winter, since the author told me that's how she spells it. I'll edit the previous chapters too soon. It was very rare for him to make a move himself in order to hide his identity. He usually used birds, mouses, puppies, and other small animals to deliver messages, but I remember the most used animal was the white rabbit, which represented his informant group. I also remember the time I thought this was quite romantic, but the reason why I was this surprised was it wasn't said that the animals delivered messages by talking. The game wasn't voiced. I only read the messages he sent to the normal mode heroine through letters, so I didn't expect that the animals would speak out loud the message. Ha, a low man's voice that came out of a small and cute rabbit. I let out a sound at the dramatic thing that just happened to me. Why does he do that when there's mails you can send and the co-workers you can deliver them through? He's not crazy like the others too, is he? I shook my head side to side at the thought. I was already stabbed in the back once by Eclipse, who I thought I was going to go all in on. I was doing this to raise his interest in case Eclipse's interest dropped suddenly. But if he's not trusted either, then no, there's no way all five of them are crazy. I shook off the thought as I thought back to the normal mode story and the time at the party where I met Winter. He was a well-mannered man who would lend his handkerchief even to a villain. Oh, wait, the villain. His interest might be easier to raise. First, I'll go find him. I rose from the floor after I calmed down. When I did, I realized how far away I was from the spot I was dozing off a while ago. I felt a little embarrassed that I ran away all the way here, scared by a fist-sized animal. He wasn't watching all that, was he? Anyways, it was great news that he contacted me. I didn't have to go to the parties to find him now. A white box appeared again in front of me when I was thinking that. System, the episode A Strange Sorcerer Verdandi has begun. Would you like to go to the White Rabbit's base? Yes or no? Wait, it wasn't like the system could actually hear me, but I still ordered as I turned around. I rushed to get ready. I needed a little preparation if I wanted to sneak out and in gain without anyone knowing. First, I wore the robe I wore when I was off to get Eclipse. Emily tried to throw it away multiple times, but I secretly got it back and hid it in the closet. Then I took out a sapphire necklace from one jewelry box. That was what I was going to pay with him. I also packed the gift I offered to give him later, just in case, along with this white handkerchief. just in case, along with his white handkerchief. Should I bring this with me too? I held the mask that Reynolds bought me and thought he sent the rabbit into my room already. If he has done that much, there was no use in hiding my identity. But I was going with the high-ranked noble lady secretly finding a man concept right now. I'll stick with the concept for a while. I put on the mask, then took a look in the mirror before dashing to where the system chart was. All done. Let's go. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. With the white light flashing and disappearing, I found myself in an alleyway with only a few people passing by. Is this it? In front of me was a shabby building. On the old door to the building was carved a white rabbit, not too noticeably. I've already seen this place through the game, so I knew that this place was Winter's base. I walked up the stairs and was about to knock with no hesitation, but when I raised a hand to the door opened automatically before coming into contact with me. What the? I felt the chills down my spine as I thought of someone might be watching me. I stared at the dark space behind the door through its opening, then opened the door wider and went in. Inside was the same as what I saw through the game, a desk and a bookshelf and the sofa for greeting the customers. It was one normal looking office. However, no matter how much I looked around, one person I was seeking for wasn't seen anywhere. Did he go somewhere? I came here almost immediately after the rabbit came by. I thought if I should go back to the mansion or not, but I decided to wait a little since I was already here. I was going to go back to the mansion by a carriage that the white rabbit groups used when since I didn't know a way back. The carriage here was the same as the taxi in the other world, but there were no workers working here where they sell more valuable information than the others did. What kind of an informant does not use a coworker? I thought about soon guessed the reason. I thought, but soon guessed the reason. Well, it's probably if because of it that he sends a manly talking rabbit that brings up the goosebumps. I closed the door and sat on the sofa. I was going to rest here while waiting for him, since I was a guest invited to this place. I once again took a look around the place. Bam! A noise came from somewhere, and I could feel the vibration from it. What's happening? I jumped up from the sofa. The shaking of the building calmed down immediately. Was it just me? I tilted my head and was about to sit back down again. Krr. Once again, I could feel the strong vibration enough to make me lose my balance. Ack! I stumbled but was able to hold onto the sofa as I screamed. I only came here to see Winter. But what's this? The vibration stopped immediately like the last one did. Earthquake. I held tightly onto the sofa and prepared myself for the next snake shake. I waited like that for a while, but nothing happened after that. I took the chance to go and check the outside from the window. I didn't know about the natural disasters in this world. I looked out the window to see how the people were covered for themselves. But the outside was surprisingly peaceful, as if nothing had happened. No one came out from wherever, even though the floor shook twice. Even though aren't many people, there's more than this building in this alleyway. The festival was still ongoing, so it should create a fuss if a natural disaster was to occur. I frowned and leaned my ear against the window. No sound could be heard, so I thought maybe this place was soundproof, but bam, the sound came from somewhere else in this building behind my back. End of chapter 20. End of chapter 30. I skipped those translators' notes. It's full of spoilers.